Welcome back, everyone, to Hearts of Iron 4 to another mod spotlight, and this time we're going to be taking a look at the minor bookmark Warlord era mod. And this is a very interesting mod. It is set, of course, in Warlord-dominated Far East in China. It has, as you can see, two bookmarks, two start dates, one on the May the 4th, 1919, and the other one on 4th of July 1926. These two are two very important dates because May the 4th, 1919 is the May the 4th movement, as it says on the tin. And, you know, if you want, you can, like, ask me what that is if you don't know, because I'm not going to talk about it. And then there's the Northern Expedition, which is the second bookmark. So, why is this mod so cool, so awesome? Well, because it adds a whole bunch of warlords and puts you essentially in the position of being a warlord in you know, 1910s, 1920s China. So you start off in 1919. You have a unique focus tree for everyone, except well, not unique for everyone. You have a generic focus tree that is common to most of the little warlords that are around. And actually all of the non-Chinese as well have this focus tree, except they can't take the actual Chinese Chinese politics things, but they can take all of these things. I guess it's like, you know, I guess they get some extra things. Anyway, you are in the Far East. As you can see, you don't have anyone in unused provinces, which is essentially the whole world except, well, from India to Japan, going through, you know, a couple of independent states such as Siam and Japan, but mostly just all the different Chinese warlords. We have debug on, please no, all the Chinese warlords, and then all the colonies of the West, such as the British India, the French Indochina, and you know, Japan over here, advancing into the continent. So why is it really awesome? Because there's there's some unique things with the focuses, unique focus trees for some of the countries involved, well, countries, or some of the warlords involved, and some of the non-warlords as well, such as over here, Guangdong, this province over here. You start off as a warlord, but you can remove the warlord. In this case, the warlord is Guanxi, who is your puppet leader. You're the minion of Guanxi, but if you take this focus, you start a war, you kill him, and you essentially take control as the KMT, the Nationalist Party, who is based right now in Guangzhou, or Canton. So, yeah, essentially Guangdong is the one that tries to then unify China. Now, there's not just them who are, you know, who have some unique things. You have Yunnan with a unique focus tree. At least parts of it are unique, which is always awesome. Then do you have one as well? No, you don't. Then you have Qingchao or Qingchao. I have no idea what this is supposed to mean, but yeah, I just have no idea. But he is Beijing. He is the capital, and he, as a person, is Duan Qizhui, who is the leader of one of the two big alliances at this point, the Anhui clique, called so because it begins in the Anhui province, which is this one. So he is the actual leader of said clique, and he's got some unique things to do. He can actually do a lot of things to cooperate with Japan, or ally up with the KMT, the nationalists, and essentially cooperate with, well, quote-unquote, us, even though I'm not going to play. You know, if I were to continue playing as Guangdong, I would eventually become nationalist China. And, yeah, essentially, then he's got the regular focus stream for everything else. By the way, if you are interested into what this is, it's like this part is shared by everyone, the plan of reform. You get a lot of industries through westernization movement, and you get some things to help out. There's some unique things being used, such as Waking the Tiger mechanics. For example, you can get a lot of free equipment, you can get some technologies, you can get some aircraft, all that stuff. Now, well, actually, I just noticed how cool this is, because apparently, see, it tells him, yeah, so in purchase foreign cars, it tells him at technology truck, whereas to us that would be at 100 trucks, because we've already researched truck, which brings us nicely to the research tree. Because of course this is supposed to be a self-contained story of China. It doesn't really, you know, make any sense to have the 1936 to 1945 focus tree, or sorry, not focus tree, tech tree of the standard game. So what you have is that you have two tabs, the theory and the equipment folders, where you have your own trees, or rather mini trees. As you can see right now, we have research truck. So since we have research truck, with this one, it would give us trucks instead of giving us technology. And that is really awesome. Anyway, so because we have this, you have this tree where it starts in 1900, 1918, depending. And then you work your way down. By the way, the icons are done really well. And one other thing that I really like is that they have split infantry equipment from cavalry equipment. Yeah, as you can see, carbines are used for cavalry. So in a way that does help differentiate infantry from cavalry, at least even in your economy stuff. So that is really nice, by the way. There's also a lot of support techs, not just, you know, your standard equipment things. You have your special forces stuff, you know, just usual things, artillery, which is way too present. I mean, it's way too easy to build, to be honest, because at this moment in time, the Chinese had some pretty serious issues actually getting a lot of artillery, but oh well, that's fine. Then you have some, again, techs that help out your army in some ways or another. Essentially, your doctrines are integrated with your regular vehicle, you know, equipment techs. So as you can see right now, if you wanted to have some additional breakthrough in your tanks, you'd have to go down this quantity doctrine and then this lead or lead doctrine, and then you'd get some breakthrough. And of course, then you can actually build tanks, super light tanks, although I guess they should probably have been tankettes. I don't know, whatever. So that's with vehicles. You can build light tanks and super light tanks and different types of trucks. Then you have boats, or boats and ships, because you have torpedo boats and corvettes, which then branch off into cruisers and also seaplane tenders, which is, I guess, it's like the aircraft carrier. It's like the aircraft carrier of this. And it actually, there's like a modifier. Oh, that's actually really cool. You can build bicycles as well. There's a, you know, modified version of the torpedo boat, that being the convoy. And that also gives the naval invasion techs, which is to be expected. Then marines, and you know, those things, some doctrines. Also, the seaplane tenders tie into nicely with the planes, because the planes, you have recon plane, and the modified version of that is the seaplane, which can go on quote-unquote carriers, aka seaplane tenders. So that's really nice. And then you have some regular, you know, fighters, bombers, CAS, and paratroopers. Infantry equipment is just that. I mean, it's infantry equipment with some extra bonuses strapped on top of there. And in the theory folder, you have 3 branches: logistic, civil, and resources. Resources allows you to build synthetic refineries, and then you branch off into agriculture, which increases your recruitable population factor, interestingly enough, and not your recruitable I see why it increases the recruitable population factor, because since you have more mechanization of agriculture, you have more people that can go into the army. I like that. And yep, exactly. So with Agricultural Tech 2, you have more people going into the factories, so less consumer goods factories. And then at the beginning, it's just more monthly population, because this is just like maybe, I don't know, you get more land tilled. That's really awesome, actually. Then you modify your synthetic refineries, and then you have maintenance company and refineries, metallurgical tech, with, by the way, again, really awesome looking icons. Civil tech, it's about, well, you get some research at the start, but then you get resources, construction speed, and in the end you get factory output. So, you know, that's concentrated industry and dispersed industry. I wonder if that reminds you of anything. And then production efficiency gap. And then logistics tech, you get logistics company, field hospitals, encryption and decryption, which is actually propaganda tech. I love that. And then on the right side, it is fortifications. Oh, no, sorry, not fortifications. At the beginning, it's division attack on core territory. and it actually stays that way. Okay, I didn't know. I thought it would be fortifications. It's here that you get fortifications, right? It's somewhere in here. No. Okay, it's here, right. Because there's also unique advisors. So unique advisors, there's a lot of them, and they're not like people. And unfortunately, they're like called like people, but they're not people, which is kind of derpy. It's kind of confusing. But to be honest, these are just like, you know, what do you want your quote-unquote nation or, you know, state to focus on. So you have agriculture, food. Agriculture is just like cavalry attack. Really, no. Naval detection. I'm thinking that that might be a bug. Food is supply. Textiles is attrition. Really awesome. Transport, speed. Medicine, it is, of course, experience, loss, and medical tech. Education is research time. Entertainment is stability. Architecture, add that one. Architecture builds land forts faster. Art is political power, and machine, military factories. Research is research. And actually, no, it's not research. It's refinery construction speed. Interesting. Mines is, of course, civilian factories and mining tech. Electricity is reconnaissance. Exploration is decryption. Finance is consumer goods factories. Environment, you know, non-core manpower and effective partisans. Politics is political power, and public welfare is defensive war penalty stability modifier plus 30%. So apparently, if you get declared on, people will love you. These are the same. That's what you'd expect. You have some manufacturers, but it's like the generic ones from the standard game, you know, then offensive expert or defensive expert, I guess. And then you have, you know, your own regular military staff. It's just like, you know, the ones from the standard game. Nothing really too strange. Most, well, maybe not most, but a lot of these actually have unique generals, which is always appreciated. For example, do you random guy have unique generals? Yes. At least a lot of them are the leaders of said warlord states, because of course these are military governors. You have 5 ideologies, as you saw, and a lot of these warlords actually have their own national spirits, which is always really nice, just to differentiate them from each other. And a lot of them are based on like historical things. Like, for example, the Hubei workers, dock workers gang, Yansu Shui, or Yansu Hui. Yeah, so that give you dockyard construction speed, even though you're landlocked, which is kind of hilarious. I wonder if they can do it like in, what's that mod again? You probably already know what I'm talking about. Old World Blues, where you can have riverine fleets, where, you know, they're, you know, going around on lakes and rivers. It would actually make a lot of sense for China to have, you know, ships going on rivers. It just makes a lot of sense, but especially for this tech tree, where you have like small ships, you have a lot of these rivers that are very big and very navigable to these kinds of ships. Anyway, that tangent aside, a lot of these states have their own generals with their own traits. And some of them actually have this general is a head of state trait, which is when they're, you know, the leader. And I'm not sure if that does anything, but I guess it might like link some, I don't know, I have no idea. I have no clue what that does. So now we go back to observe. And so as you can see, like, for example, if we were in Guangdong again, we'd have a much bigger selection of leaders, including some with some interesting like connections to history, such as Chen Xiongming, who's going to become the leader of our state of Guangdong once we take this one. And yeah, you know, if you go down further in this focus tree, you actually have some interesting branches to explore. So you have, of course, going back to unique focus trees, we're just going to finish off all of them so that you have a decent idea of what's going on. So essentially, Guangdong, you have the conflict between the KMT and Chen Zhongming, which is this warlord over here. This guy. And the conflict between them is essentially like this guy wanted to create essentially kind of like a federation of all the warlords. Essentially, he wanted to unite China not by force, but by making a big confederation that hopefully maybe others would join. Although partially it probably just was because, you know, he wanted to keep his position, which under a unified government, maybe he didn't. Anyway, so that's the federalism line. You have a branch that either takes you to the quote-unquote Chinese Merchant Republic, which is kind of hilarious, and that allows you to take the Northern Expedition decisions, which unfortunately we do not have yet, but I'm gonna, you know, I'm gonna make you see later. Then there is the other part, which is you essentially, for some reason it's called Socialism of all mankind. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be something else. It's kind of a bug. But yeah, you create essentially your like warlord confederation in the southeast of China, and you make some warlords such as Guangxi, Hunan, Fujian, and one other. I have no idea who the one other could be. You know, Guangxi is this one, Hunan is this one, Jiangxi is this one. Or maybe it's Jiangxi. Because yeah, it's probably Jiangxi. Because, you know, these three plus him, you know, you make your coalition in the southeast, and then you go ahead and take over the rest of the country. You either can do that, or you can go with the historical path, which is you have the Nationalist Party win this power struggle. And if the Nationalist Party wins this power struggle, you are essentially preparing for the Northern Expedition under the guidance of the free principles of the people. So you can either have a... so, by the way, this is the moderate rightist ideology, which is this one. And then you have the moderate leftist ideology, which is the KMT. And then you can either go ahead and do the quote-unquote historical path, aka you clamp down on Canton merchants, you establish the Huangpo Military Academy, and then you prepare the Northern Expedition, which is like, you know, when you go ahead and take over the rest of the, you know, warlords. Or you can guide the merchant groups and essentially be like a kind of America-style, more like social democracy. And then you have the genuine free people's principles. And what you do if you do that is that with this one, since you are not quote-unquote true to like the principles of the people, you're going to have that the Nationalist Party splits off into two. So you're going to have one leftist part and one right part, and then you're going to have to choose. If you take the genuine free people's principles, you do not have the split. And then, so that's that. Then you have Yunnan, which is all about essentially the head of the Yunnan clique, Tan Jiao, his power struggle with Ku Pingchen, which is a very, very obscure thing. I have no idea, like how much research must have gone into all of this. Anyway, so essentially this guy, the second guy, kind of gets, like, this is kind of a power struggle that gets involved with the overall like state of affairs in China, although historically it's supposed to happen in 1921. And yeah, essentially like Tan Jiao is more like if you want to go ahead and you know, attack people and then eventually try to take over the government, whereas Ku is like, you know, hold on, I'm pretty sure. Like, one thing that I dislike about this is that it uses Wade Giles like romanization, so I have no idea how to pronounce any of this. And then you so then you become the government. Huh. Interesting. Oh, because you become the Guangdong. Oh, okay. Interesting. So with this one, you become the nationalists, or Guangxi. Interesting. Whatever. I like this. It's very awesome. Then the other people that have unique things are, as I said, Qingchao, which for some reason it's just like Qingchao might just mean the Qing dynasty, but I have no idea. Anyway, so here you have essentially Duan Qirui, who is your leader, who's trying to take over China, and to do that, he's going to have to go to war with the other big alliance that you see, the Zhili clique, called Zhili because they control Zhili province, and these become famous later on because they are the faction of one of the most famous Chinese warlords, who is Wu Peifu, and he becomes the leader of the Zhili clique, although at the beginning it's this old guy, Fen Guochang. And yeah, unfortunately, I don't think. Oh, no. Okay, they do actually have some. They actually have some things of their own. Now, interestingly enough, like the Jilly clique for some reason had like a lot of relationships with Italy. Like Italy just sent them a bunch of equipment after the end of World War One. I'm not sure if it's represented, but it's kind of there. So they also have a tiny little unique part of the focus tree themselves, and it has to deal with, again, Japan, because you know, in the Northeast, Japan is kind of the big guy, the big deal. And then you get to invite a lot of people to the Zhili clique, such as Henan, or these two tiny guys, the Jingguajun, or aka like the country stability army, I guess you could say, the army for the country stability, something like that. There were a lot of armies for X and Y in the Warlord period, and then there's the Chensunjun. I have no idea what that is supposed to mean, so yeah, whatever. And so that's that. Sichuan, do you have anything? Yes, Sichuan has their own unique focus tree. Their problem is that Sichuan is a big-ass place, and itself is kind of split into a lot of tiny warlords that control just all of these random little places all over the place. And so what they have is that they have a big split in Sichuan. So you're about to try to finish that. And then after that, you're going to have to try to either cooperate with the nationalists or, you know, make your own, like, independence faction. And if you cooperate with the nationalists, you actually have a war with Tibet, which is historical. There was a war over this part of, you know, this part of area with Tibet. By the way, Tibet has the Chinese flag in the rear, so I suppose it's not banned in China, the mod. Anyway, Xinjiang doesn't have anything. Mongolia doesn't have anything, but Mongolia has some interesting things that I'm gonna show you in a bit. Because in a bit I'm gonna show you like how the game can kind of progress further on. I haven't played it all that much, but I've seen like how it can go, and actually the AI is relatively proactive. Anyway, the other like player, the other big player that has their own focus tree is the Fengtian. Now the Fengtian is, if you've played Kaiserreich, you know these guys. It is Jiang Zuolin, the quote-unquote puppet of Japan, like the Manchukuo substitute in KR. Except, you know, they've got some things to do with Japan, but they're actually much more expanded upon here, because at this point they were still one of the very, very powerful warlord factions, called like that because, of course, they control Fengtian province, which is this one. As you can see, they have a lot of different things, and they have some nice things in the focus tree because they have some great options. Look at this. So, you know, Unite Manchuria, because at the start it's divided into the 3 historical provinces of Manchuria, or the Northeast, as the Chinese call it. So Fengtian, Jizhen, and Heilongjiang, which is actually a really awesome name. It means like Black Dragon River, which is I think it's this river or something. I don't know. So you unite these 3. You have your Manchuria, and then you either try to collaborate with the Japanese and essentially become what you are in Kaiserreich, which is kind of not really a Japanese puppet state, but kind of a Japanese dependency anyway. And yeah, there you get a bunch of things. Unfortunately, over here, like a lot of these have the focus has no effect because you need like different you know, different preconditions to be there before it actually shows you what that does. But oh well. Anyway, you can either again support the Japanese or admit the White Russians, because this is 1919. The Russian Civil War is going, and there's actually kind of a spill. Over here you have the Soviet Far Eastern Republic. Over here, DVR, Dalnie Vostochnaya Respublika, which is the essentially like Soviet partisan republic. And actually, wait. Huh! All these things have Chinese names. Like, for example, Vladivostok is Haishan-Wei. And, yeah. Yeah, all these have Chinese names. That's awesome. I didn't know, because, you know, you're supposed to be playing as a Chinese. That's pretty great. Does Japan have... Oh, Japan does not have Chinese names in it. That's too bad. Anyway. Does Korea? No, North Korea, South Korea. Anyway, the White Russians are most likely going to lose to the red Russians, and then Fengtian can invite the white Russians into the country, which is what they historically did, because they kind of controlled the Chinese Eastern Railway, blah, blah, blah. It's very complicated. I don't want to talk about it here. You can actually have them essentially become your, like, ruling, like, they can really come in and support your ruling clique as you know, you can become like the white Russians in a way. It's just kind of awesome. And yeah, that's kind of like a very obscure part of history, like how a lot of white Russians ended up being exiled to China. That is very, very interesting to me. Anyway, so that's that for like unique things in the focus trees. There's also some unique mechanics though that you can uncover as you play through the game. So to do that, I'm actually going to show you in some of the saves that I've prepared with playing through as Guangdong. Sorry, I was drinking. So as you can see over here, after you go through your first civil war, you defeat the Guanxi over here. You have that. So you unlock a lot of different decisions. Because technically you're not a puppet anymore, so you can do a lot of things. You can start the National Revolution, which is going to give you just a massive bonus. So that's going to be like the nationalists proclaiming, you know, the reconquest of the rest of China, and that's gonna help you a fair bit. Anyway, that's only if you go down to, for example, prepare the Northern Expedition. In the meantime, you have a lot of different things to do. Like, for example, you have this diplomacy with the great powers. That is actually from the standard focus tree. Once you take the diplomatic actions focus, you actually have this diplomacy with the great powers, which gives you the ability to improve relations with them, which in the meantime costs political power and resources to market, which kind of like is it's kind of to represent that you're opening up your markets to them, which is awesome because a lot of like the history of intervention of the European powers into China was essentially a history of how to open the market to European, you know, interference, quote unquote. And so that's one thing that I like. Another thing that I like is essentially how, like, at this point, you have a lot of these factions like kind of unifying, and at some point they're going to start to fight each other. What else did I want from this? What else did I want from this save? Because I feel like I might have wanted something else. By the way, this is the resources tab. It looks pretty cool. Another thing that I forgot to mention is that all the colonies, or all of the independent states, are actually guaranteed by other people. So, for example, if you wanted to take over Shanghai, over here, the Shanghai International Settlement with the legation flag, you'd have to fight Japan, you'd have to fight French Indochina, and you'd have to fight British India. So that would be pretty bad, you know? Don't do that, because Japan is strong as hell, because British India is strong as hell, and French Indochina, well, it's not that strong, but, you know, you get the gist of it. You get the gist of it. Also, if you wanted to try to attack French Indochina itself, they're guaranteed by Japan, they're guaranteed by British India. So, like, all of the imperialists are in league, kind of, with each other, and so they don't really want you interfering in their affairs. Even Portuguese Macau has a lot of guarantees all over. So yeah, don't do that, and yeah, just let them be. Also, yeah, there's some more like there's a lot more historical arrangements of states and how like certain cities were part of concessions to great powers. For example, Weihai Wei over here, very important, and it's British. Qingdao, old German colony, is now Japanese. It's going to get turned over to the Chinese soon. Speaking of that, let's go to around the time where that happens, but that's not the reason why we are going there, because I want to show you something awesome. So you know Mongolia, right? And you know Kaiserreich. There's a certain person. Yes, he exists. So Sternberg can actually invade. So this is what I wanted to show you, that like all these bookmarks have a lot of different events happening, and like for example right now you have that the Zhili Anhui war is going on, and it is not going very well for Zhili. It seems like Anhui is winning. Anyway, so for example, you have events that happen for pretty much a lot of these different little tiny states, and you also have Sternberg that invades, so you can try to recreate the Mongol Empire or whatever. Okay. And at this point, as you saw, the Japanese also returned the great city of Qingdao to Shandong, which is this part. Anyway, then we go further on, and the reason why I want to go further on is because, as you can see, like in the playthrough that I'm doing right now, I was trying to improve relations with Russia, because what this diplomacy with the great powers, what like the idea in the end is. Oh, and by the way, check out this awesome war. Look at these encirclements. Anyway, the reason why you're doing this diplomacy with the great powers is that once you reach a good standing with them, you get to have them like send you help with things. So, like, for example, if I go to here, you can see that I am acquainted with the Soviets. So with being acquainted to the Soviets, I can have Russian Experience 1, which is going to give me a reconnaissance, resource gain efficiency, civilian factory construction speed, infrastructure construction speed, and military factory construction speed. And these are actually, I believe, unique to everyone. Like, all of these different countries that you can improve relations with will give you different things. And the reason I'm saying that is because, like, for example, with this improved relations with Britain, the text over here says, while they may be the arch-imperialists, working with the British offers the best chance to modernize our air force and ensure a steady flow of supplies from Hong Kong or whatever. And with China, for example, they say, even though they have repeatedly humiliated us and forced new concessions upon us in the current situation, we may end up needing their help. You know, so, like, I don't know. It's just, there's just a tingle that I think they're going to be different. Also, another thing that kind of tells me that is because the national spirit over here is Russian Experience 1. So, hold on. It's only for 70 days. Sad. Anyway, the reason why I'm saying that is because, again, like, Russian Experience 1, so they send you help, right? But it's called Russian Experience. So if I had, for example, improved relations with Italy or someone else, probably they'd be given, they'd be given different things. I don't know. For example, if I were to improve to just have a bunch of political power. Let's see. Oh no, not with Russia. Oh well, whatever. Like, for example, I'm going to try to improve relations with Germany and all that. So you're going to have to bear with my ramblings for, like, while the in-game time does this thing. Okay, so the reason why I like the system is that it just gives you incentives to, think about, like, what your relations with great powers are. I wonder if there's any events that actually change that. But, even if there aren't, like, overall this mod is just very well developed. Just incredibly well developed for what it essentially wants to do and for what it can do, considering it's just like supposed to be a self-contained scenario. It does that very well because it puts in mechanics where historically it was important for these warlords to get a bunch of contacts abroad, to have different political relationships at home, and to have different outlooks as to the developments within Chinese society and such. And what's also really awesome is the way they handled the unique focus trees, which I think are really cool. Even though they're not, like, that big, they're nice, Oh, unfortunately, it seems like the amount that I improved with Germany was not enough to make them go to acquainted. Now, what I would really love for you to... Do I have anything that might improve with Germany? Nope. That's really sad, because right now the decision doesn't seem to be working. Yeah, usually it takes a while to have that decision come back up, which is really annoying, actually. Oh yeah, actually it's because, oh no, that's just trade deal opinion factor. Ah, well. Okay, so here, they're back, and, yeah, once again, let's see if after this one it is going to give us anything different. It is definitely going to jump up Germany to acquainted, which is going to tell us if the German thing is different from the Russian thing. So, yeah, that would be pretty good. That would be pretty good. Now, the Northeast, you don't have any unique things, but you have the Maz, which is kind of always good. And I wonder if Xinjiang has anything particular going on for it. What else to talk about? Well, the normal focus tree has, for a political line, you have either you can support the monarchy, support the republic, or have the third way, which is the commies. The commies, you can either pick the pro-urban, kind of classical Marxist kind of faction, or the Alliance of Workers and Peasants, aka you're a Maoist kind of. And that's just some differences, but you're a radical leftist in any way. And then from there you can go ahead and come down and either like try to join one of the warlord cliques or defeat the imperialists and reconquer a bunch of territories, which is always nice. And then in the center, you support the republic, aka us in this case. And if you support the republic, you get more. Goddamn Sichuan. If you support the republic, you can either say, again, either 3 principles of the people or 5 races under 1 union. So, are you going to be for centralism or are you going to be for localism? Democratic factories, I always love stuff like that. Whereas for the monarchy, you're going to be trying to restore the Qing dynasty. A Dream of the Red Chamber, which is actually a very famous novel. And that gives you the national spirit, the 8 banners, which were like the military units of the Manchus. And your political goal will become the restoration of the Manchu Empire, whereas in this case it would become support the Guangdong, and in this case it would be support the... Okay, that's Gongchandan, that's Communist Party, whereas this one is Gongtuan Pai? I have no idea what Gongtuan Pai is. Whatever. It might be some kind of anarchist, actually, considering he's got the anarchist flag. Anyway, Palace of Perpetual Happiness. Instead, if instead of the Dream of the Red Chamber, you take Palace of Perpetual Happiness, you try to restore the Han. That Chinese character in there is Han, aka China, aka Han Dynasty, which is like the kind of like the Roman Empire of China. Very simplifying, but. Yeah, in both of these cases, you're kind of a restorationist. In this case, though, you're trying to restore the Great Han. So that's kind of awesome. Even though it's not realistic, but it's awesome. Anyway, German experience. Oh yeah, German experience is about mobilization speed. Oh wow, okay. And actually, if you improve relations with these guys, apparently it makes the Brits and the Americans more hostile. Awesome. Because they don't like you that you're supporting Germany and the Soviets. Also, note how at this point Germany is still the Weimar Republic. It's 1922. Anyway, I will end it for... Actually, no, I still got to show you one more thing. There's another bookmark. There's another starting date. It is the... So, like, the first start date, it's in May the 4th, 1919, because it's the May the 4th movement, which was a big kind of student/intellectual/popular movement of protest versus the resolutions of the Treaty of Versailles. Because the resolutions of the Treaty of Versailles awarded a lot of things that China wanted to Japan, such as the city of Qingdao, and they were followed by the 21 demands, which was when Japan essentially said, hey, you need to do... Maybe I've gotten the two things mixed up. Maybe. I'm not sure. I might have those two mixed up. Anyway, the 21 demands were when essentially Japan said, okay, you have to give us a lot of concessions. And they started to penetrate, again, into the Chinese political sphere. So essentially, the May the 4th movement was, in a way, like, it's considered like the new wave of the Chinese revolutionary movement after 1911, and it's the one that, you know, pushes again for democracy, again for modernization, and to oppose the fragmentation of China into warlords and to oppose foreign imperialism. So then you have the 1926 start, which is the Northern Expedition. In the Northern Expedition, things have much changed. As you can see there, all of these warlord cliques have kind of consolidated. You have two big-ass things in the east. You have the Dongbei, which is the northeast under Zhang Zuolin, aka the Fengjian clique. And then you have the Dongnan, which is the southeast under Sun Chuanfang, who's kind of supporting the Zhili, and kind of sometimes supporting Dongbei, but not really as much. There were definitely a lot of wars between these two, but he's kind of like his own independent warlord. He controlled, the area around Shanghai, and then you have Xibei, who is the National Revolutionary Front, or Guangminjun, the nationalist army under Feng Yuxiang. Then you have just Yunnan, Sichuan, Guizhou, all these guys doing their own thing. Xinjiang, he's doing their own thing. Shanxi over here, always Yan Xishan, he just sits there. He's like, nah, you guys just do your own thing. And essentially this is the war when, over here, the Chinese national government, under, as you can see over here, this, you may not recognize the name or the picture, but this is Chiang Kai-shek, Jiang Jieshi. And yeah, he's trying to take over and unite China. And actually, with the Northern Expedition, he gets decisions to attack everyone. So at this point, he's just trying to take over. And he's going to have to first defeat Wu Peifu, who at this point kind of is at the end of the barrel in terms of his political career. His real height was in 1922, 1923. By this point, he had already been defeated by Zhang Zuolin. So the main adversary that you're going to actually have to face is Zhang Zuolin, who already starts at war with you, even though they're two technically different governments. It's just very confusing. Anyway, so this is much kind of simpler in a way. There's a lot less of just a bunch of random provinces breaking off. And of course, as you can see, you have a lot of your decisions already done for you. According to like what the historical path is supposed to be. So, for example, the KMT went down centralism, improved relations with the Soviets, who actually helped the KMT by quite a bit. They helped the nationalists quite a lot. And then, you get all these things. Whereas, for example, you, Dongbei, went for neutralism, and you became the central government. Zhili, do you have anything specific? Yes, you have gone down the left-hand side with the war with the Anhui clique, which doesn't exist anymore, as you can see. Do you have anything unique? Probably not. Nope. And then you have just Yan Xishan doing his own thing. Oh, Yan Xishan has his own focus tree. That's awesome. Okay, I didn't know. Seems to be mostly peaceful, though, because Yan Xishan, in a way, was kind of like the model governor, in a way. He can also, though, attack the central government, which is kind of nice. Or you could take Feng Yuxiang, who is kind of like one of the most interesting characters of the whole warlord era. He's the Christian warlord, and you can take him and try to, come in and help out the KMT. Because in the beginning, he did support the nationalists. Or you can just be Yunnan and, try to take over the southwest of China. You can do all the things that you started off with, except you don't have the Russian Civil War kind of spilling over to the northeast. And maybe at some point they're going to add like a Japan focus tree where Japan is going to do the Marco Polo Bridge incident and the Mukden incident, and they're going to try to take over China. Anyway, it's going to be the end. I want to thank y'all for watching. The link, as always, for the mod will be in the description. I did not make it. It looks really awesome. If you want me to play it, I can. And, I might just play Sternberg, because he's fun. As much as he's not the focus of the mod. Yeah, I do hope that this gets continued to be updated. I think it's only one guy making it, so bravo. Taihada. And, yeah. Anyway, thank you all for joining me. I'll see you soon, and have a good day.